Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast, and welcome back to the Bundesliga. My name's Jake, joined as always by Carver. Also got to give a huge welcome back to Adam. We talk about you a lot, Adam, although it's been a while since you've been on the podcast. We're so happy to have you back, man. How's it going? How are you doing?
It's going well. I haven't been on here, but I've been listening as always. So I feel like I've never left, but now I get to actually talk to you all live.
Yeah, no, it's good to actually have you here talking with us. I know podcasts always feel like you're there in the conversation, but we're glad that you can actually talk back this time.
Talk back. You don't always hear me, but
Carver, how are you doing?
I'm doing so much better now that Adam's here. He's always been here in spirit. And for those of you that might be new to the show, this is the man. This is our first guest that we've ever had on the show, and still my favorite. So appreciate you coming back on.
ooh, strong words,
Wow.
Strong words. It was the first one though, huh? Wow, it does go back
I was
pretty.
thinking about that right before you hopped on.
Wow, yeah, I guess that's the case. Yeah, it's been a while, and you guys just reached 100, so I wanted to congratulate you on that. 101 now. Oh, get this. This is 102 now.
Yeah. 102. Yeah. No, I mean, you've been there. It was like only a few episodes in, I feel like, when Adam joined us. So Adam is an OG, and now Adam is just going to be the only guest we ever have in the future, because Carver threw all our other previous guests and our future guests under the bus. So stuck with us. But yeah, coming up, I mean, if you're not familiar with Adam, we always link him in the description of our episodes as the go-to source for BVB Frauen and the women's team. Adam, can we still call you the expert and the go-to? Like, I mean, that's how we always refer to you if you're still comfortable with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit my my external coverage, updating the website with the stats and everything, that I haven't really kept up on just because life has gotten in the way on a lot of different things. But in terms of following, still definitely keeping up with the team. Not only the team, but the ex-members of the team. Like that first Dortmund women's team will always be very near and dear to my heart. So I've even got some updates on what some of them are doing now. So it might be fun to hear.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into a BVB Frauen update later on in the episode. We're going to review Eintracht Frankfurt. We'll talk Werder Bremen. We'll hit some transfer news as the window is winding down and stuff is coming through. I was going to preface it later, but I'll just say it now. Before we even get to the transfer talk, it looks like Moukoko could be at Nice by the time you're listening to this episode. So I'm just going to time-proof our episode right now. It might have already happened, but we'll talk about it a little bit towards the end of the episode. And before we get into everything else, though, before we start talking about Eintracht Frankfurt, Adam, since we haven't talked to you in a while, like your thoughts, it's obviously been a really big summer for Dortmund. A lot of incoming transfers, a lot of moves. Nuri Sahin is the head coach. So your overall kind of quick hit thoughts on the new era of Dortmund.
Yeah, I mean, overall, if you think about like the production we were losing in Royce, Hummels, in Sancho, in Ian Matson, and then maybe not production, but versatility in Marius Wolf, that's a lot of players leaving that we got nothing back for. So I have to say, considering that, I mean, wages obviously came off, but I'm pretty impressed with what they've managed to do this summer. I know that there were some hiccups. It seemed like every time we turned around, there was a club holding up a 35 million euro sign, and we were like, damn it, can't do that. But we did manage to do pretty well, I think, considering the constraints that we had, both in terms of budget and, the fact that we still have a lot of players who we have not been able to get rid of yet. As of this moment, we're still carrying 4 strikers, which seems ridiculous. And that's after selling one, too. Probably the one we didn't want to sell. So it's like a really weird off season in that respect. But like to get a guy like Jan Couto, I did not really watch him much, but what I've seen so far, it looks promising. And like, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of Matson in him. Maybe there's a little bit of Guerrero in him. We'll see what we get there. But I think that that's the type of player that we know works pretty well with our system. I still love Rierson. I want to make sure that he starts like every single match. I think is a good match of offense and defense. But Couto is an interesting guy to come in on this team, especially, a little on the younger side. Probably a little older than some people realize, but is on the younger side. Bayer, I think, is great. I can't believe they put that together so quickly. And I think that, he's already proven in the Bundesliga at a very young age. So that's the exact type of thing that we're looking for, proven and young. And Pascal Gross. Like that's one that I was like, ooh, that would be cool to get. And I wasn't convinced it was going to happen, but I'm so glad that it did, just because, you hear a lot of people are talking about, oh, they're just following the Leverkusen model where they bring in the young coach that's the former player, and now we brought in our Xhaka now, like guy in the middle of the field who's a veteran who's done it before. I don't know. It worked last year, and so far I like what I've seen so far. So in general, I feel pretty good about the off season, which is not what I expected, because going into the break, I kind of felt like exhausted as a fan. Like there was a lot this year that, I don't know, I just feel like we were kind of put through the ringer the last 18 months or so. First with the dropping the title in the last day. And then, I still don't love the Mecha signing. Actually, I think I hate it more every day. And then there's the Rheinmetall stuff and just a lot of lack of growth in the team. And I was like feeling a little jaded by the end of the year, despite the fact that we were in the freaking Champions League final. But I feel pretty good to start the year. I feel like they did about as well as they could with bringing Shaheen, and the moves were excellent.
It does feel like a fresh start, though, as you said. Like there was a lot, and we even said it. Like I think probably after the Champions League run, like that was amazing, right? That was incredible. As it was happening, we were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But there's this always just slight sourness to the season 2 with the performance in the Bundesliga, and then I don't know, everything else going on too. Like we were thoroughly enjoying the Champions League run and also thoroughly disappointed in everything else that was happening. So this does feel like a nice fresh start.
I didn't even mention Lucas Piszczek is back, and that alone is like a sense of calm for the new year.
Yeah, we had to have a better window overall compared to last year, just how underwhelming it was. And I wanted to touch on a few other people that have been out the door. I mean, Tom Rota, I know Jake and I have touched on him already, being slightly disappointed that we couldn't watch him develop a bit more at, he's going to be at the Bundesliga level now, but here in Dortmund. Of course, Paris Brunner didn't work out with him. We did get rid of some dead weight with Thomas Meunier and just his high wages. And he was always incredibly overrated in terms of his salary, but at least we were able to finally get him off the books. And now we're looking at potentially...
He got off the books as soon as we could possibly have used him. That was like the weirdest timing. Like he left during the year at a point where he was actually starting every day. It's like just the gift that kept like taking away. Like when we finally could use him, he was gone. It's like, come on. Sorry to interrupt there, but that one just bugged me.
Even though he wasn't a free transfer however many years ago, I just remember at the time, a lot of the PSG fans were like, oh, thank God, we're getting him out of here for Paris, and, good luck for Dortmund. And he had moments. I mean, his second year, I said before, he really, really did improve, but just, however many years it was, 4 or so years, he really sucked a lot of the life out of this team. And he'd gone for injuries for so long and just taking up that wage bill. So, a lot of dead weight that we did get rid of with him getting out the door. But I wish we could have handled some of these younger prospects better, more again with Brunner and then Rota, and Kamara is also out the door, going to Portsmouth too. And then, like I mentioned again, looking at Moukoko potentially in the next 12 to 24 hours.
I feel like Brunner was never going to happen. It was nothing but difficulty since day one. I don't know. That was just the sense I got when he left. I was like, it just was the most inevitable thing ever.
Yeah, I don't really disagree, especially in these last 6 to 8 months. My eyes have really been opened a lot more for that sort of thing. And, if that's the route he was wanting to take, that's, the club kind of let him have that pathway. It was the same way with Rota. And I can't really say the same thing for Moukoko, because it looked like we were trying to invest in him with the contract extension and giving him higher wages and then not playing him and then playing him. That was just kind of confusing all these past 3 years really with him.
Yeah, I hate the Moukoko situation just because, we've been following him since he was 12 years old. And I wanted this to work out so badly. Like, he is the longest tenured player on this club. I mean, he's been here since he was 12. And to have it end, it just kind of is fizzling out. There's not going to be a big sale. There was no, final finally breaking out in the year and everything. It just, nothing ever happened. And I feel like we got glimpses of it. Like if you look at him on like a per 90-minute basis, like the numbers are there, but just not the consistent playing time, which to me says it has to be something that we're not seeing in the background, like in training or whatever. But I don't know. I always wondered if, I don't know, this might be dumb, but I don't know if he miscast? Like, was this guy a winger all along and we never used him there? Like, I don't know. For some reason, always looked like that to me. Just, the speedy guy out wide or something like that instead. But I don't know. I'm also not a football manager, so.
You're right. And it's crazy to think that he is one of the longer 10-year players at this club, considering he's still a teenager. I mean, he is literally 19 years old, and he had his debut at 16 and had so many moments throughout the years in just that short stint. It's a shame that we're not even really it looks like the reported fee is going to be like 12 million or something like that. So, I mean, really half of his market value. It's a shame that, like you mentioned, he didn't really have the breakout. And we also not even really getting much money for him.
Yeah, it looks like the OG Nice deal, OGC Nice? Nice. I'll just say Nice. That makes it way easier. Again, by the time you're listening, he might be gone. But it does look like it's a loan with an option to buy. Yeah, the news is probably out there. Let's talk Eintracht Frankfurt, though. We will get more transfer stuff a little bit later. And I just want to start, before we even get like quick takes, I want to start right off the bat with the lineup, which I feel like as soon as this dropped, everyone lost their shit. Everyone in our Discord, at least. And part of me was a little hurt because I feel like Carver and I hit on this very similar lineup pretty hard in the last episode. And then to see everyone losing their minds, I'm like, guys, I mean, I kind of thought it was going to happen. Like, I kind of expected it. And just right off the bat, like, if we're going to play three at the back, we need more center backs. If we're moving people on, hopefully we can bring some more center backs in. But that's how it started. Obviously, Kobel in goal. Our three center backs, Anton, Sula, Schlotterbeck, looking like a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1, with wingbacks Rierson and Mullen, Chan and Gross in the middle, Sabitzer and Brandt kind of two tens, and then Adeyemi up top. So, Carver, did you lose your shit? And what were your thoughts when you saw this lineup?
I mean, not too much. Again, I think there's an option that we can maybe do like these one-off games for, especially before the fixtures come thick and fast with like the likes of the Champions League and more of these higher-end Pokal matches. I mean, maybe Shaheen is fancying more of that kind of system. But again, it does kind of flow throughout the game. I mean, against the ball, if you looked at the average positions, at least until halftime, we were actually in a 4-2-3-1, or even like sometimes like 4-2-4 almost. So it flowed, and Schlotterbeck kind of played out wide sometimes as a left back and then tucked back in as a center back at times when needed. But a lot of flexibility when it came to the lineup. But I'm just hoping, again, nothing happens to either of those three center backs, considering, too, Koulibaly, if he's not already out the door, I don't know why it's escaping me. He's going to be likely out the door here soon, too. So not really sure how that's going to look in terms of depth going into the season.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way we have Mullen as a wing back. This couldn't be three at the back. But sure enough, like you said, it kind of was at certain times. I kept going back and forth. I'm like, is this three? Is this four? I didn't really get it. But I mean, if you look at like Rierson's numbers for the match, it was clear that he was essentially playing an attacking role the whole time. Although, not like he didn't come back, but his production was an attack. He had a lot of crosses and a lot of shot generation this match, actually, for him. Can't really say the same on the other side for Mullen. I don't know if it was the difficulty of a position he's not really used to and being asked to do more, but it just seemed like he never got started the whole match.
Yeah, and just positioning, because I did take a screenshot of at halftime, they put up the average position. And as you said, Carver, it was very much like you did see kind of 4-2-3-1. Like, this is exactly why in the last week's episode, I was like, we might be playing three at the back, but also whatever lineup pops up on TV, you really just can't lean too much into it because everything's shifting and moving all the time. In the average position with the ball, I thought it was interesting that Mullen was actually the highest up on the pitch, even up further than Adeyemi at times. And if that's his average position, like, yes, he's a wing back, quote unquote, if we're playing a back three, but he's still way up there. And then Rierson was a little more still up high, but back a little more at his average position was kind of the halfway line. And that was, again, with the ball. So bombing up high. And then even against the ball, as you said, Carver, it does look a bit more like a back four. It is interesting to watch. And I just don't, whether we're playing a back three or back four with Schlotterbeck in the left back position or that left center back position. I don't love that. And that's what freaks me out. Like, is there the option to have Ryerson play that left sided position and Couteau be that right wing back, if you will, or that right full back with Ryerson on the left as of now? Because who do we, I guess Benzabaini, like we can talk about Benzabaini a little bit. Like, do we see him in the match? Oh, we will talk about him later with that last goal because freaking phenomenal. And I loved your Twitter commentary on it, Adam, too. But yeah, like maybe he fights his way into this position. I think it is so early that it's hard to say, like, this is how we're playing, this is how we're locking in. A lot can change, and I think a lot will as the season progresses and people fighting for spots, and maybe we do get another left back coming in. I still think Rierson's a good option in that left back position too. But yeah, that's our spiel on the lineup. I mean, you want to get into the match a little more?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I should preface by saying we got a clean sheet. We won the game. We got 3 points. What is that? I think the commentary said like it was like 10 seasons in a row that we won an opening match in the Bundesliga, which is a phenomenal record. But I was very underwhelmed, similar to last season in that first 45 minutes. I mean, it wasn't just Mullen, like you mentioned, Adam, that couldn't find any rhythm. It was the whole team. I mean, Frankfurt were very, very well organized and just incredibly effective when it comes to their pressing. They completely controlled the flow of the game without the ball and just was completely unable to find any sort of rhythm with the ball when it came to Dortmund. And we're not having to go at Ryerson by any means, but when it just came to like either him or Mullen being the options out wide to throw in a cross to absolutely no one. I mean, Adeyemi sat at the top of the box, leaving literally just Brandt or Sabitzer being at the end of those. I mean, neither player really being able to be that person that could flick on with their head or hold up play in the box for someone else. That one was a little bit of a head scratcher for me, but thankfully we were able to make some adjustments here at halftime. But I was a bit concerned, and frankly, I was surprised that Frankfurt weren't able to capitalize on just the opportunities of them winning the ball high up the field whenever we couldn't progress, and Ekitike was a handful too. Anton couldn't really handle him that well. It wasn't exclusive to him either, but Ekitike was really everywhere. But just, the lack of momentum was one of the bigger eye-opening moments for me in those first 45.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that Frankfurt still, despite controlling the game, wasn't really able to put anything together. Like their shots, like at one point, they put up a graphic about the shot comparison, and I was like, wait, Frankfurt only has 2 shots? Like, I feel like they're bossing this game, and they weren't getting any shots out of it. And not only that, but they had 5 shots in the first half, and it was a 9% chance, a 2%, a 2%, another 2%, and then Ekitike's in the 39th minute was 19%. That was their best shot of the half. So even though they were bossing it, they were getting nothing out of it. And, Ekitike's was the first one on target, and he was saved. And then they only had 2 shots in the entire second half, one of them being over the bar that was, I'm jumping ahead here, but that was like almost a full XG in itself. So when you see their high XG, like that was a 93% chance that sailed over the bar.
Yeah. And I mean, it was definitely, I felt panicked. I felt like we were under a ton of pressure. It is good, like looking at the stats, I guess, like they couldn't actually do anything with it. I still take that as like, I'm more concerned that we couldn't do much. And we couldn't seem to break them down or get through them. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it just felt like it was kind of, we were trudging through it. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get a result here. And it being the first match of the season at home, I was getting very upset by that. I was like, oof, it's going to be rough. If Frankfurt's doing this to us, like at home on day one, I know, like, I guess I take encouragement in there is a lot of change. Like we're still figuring each other out as a team. Like they're still growing. And I just wish we would have come out a little more hot, like, and had things a little more figured out. We talked about it a lot against Phoenix Lubeck where we looked great, but again, that was a 4th division side, right? So what's it look like when we play Eintracht on day one? And that's what it looked like. I hope things can start to click a little more as we keep going.
Eintracht didn't hit the bar 3 times. Like, I mean, they were polar opposites, the two matches. But yeah, it's kind of weird to start off with two matches that are kind of the polar opposite. But
Yeah, it's got to be a handful of games in a row now. I mean, dating back a few years, at least what it feels like, of Frankfurt putting on a really good performance against us, not being able to finish or just being unlucky, and then Dortmund just simply capitalizing on their chances and then ending up with 3 points. I mean, whether it's home or away, really. I mean, the last few meetings against us, that's really been like the general feeling of the game. And I wanted to mention also, too, like Sabitzer and Adeyemi, second game in a row in the same position where Adeyemi is the lone striker. Sabitzer also forming that like front three, almost as like a number 7. I mean, he did drop back at times to help with build up, sure, but he was in that front three mainly with Brandt and Adeyemi. Yeah, I'm curious still. I don't know what the deal is with Haller. I don't know if Sahin doesn't fancy him in the same way Terzic does. I don't know if there's still some fitness things. I don't know. But either way, I don't think Adeyemi is going to be that person to be the number 9. I still think he can absolutely flourish in that wingback role. I mean, similar to what Malen was doing, right? I mean, and we've seen that before too. Adeyemi tracks back and has the defensive work rate too. He draws a hell of a lot of fouls and it comes on the counterattack. But as a number 9, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was gonna I meant to hit on this when we were talking lineup, anyways. But this is a better transition into it, anyways. But Adeyemi as the 9, because a lot of people were kind of, I think, discouraged, like from what I saw on Twitter and in Discord, like people being a little discouraged with Adeyemi playing the 9 and kind of like questioning like why, like we brought in a couple strikers, like why is he the 9? And obviously he's played this position before with Salzburg. I think he played a little more in a 2 at the front. I think he can do it. I don't think he's the answer. I think Girassi obviously still not ready to go. I think Bayer still working himself into the system. Like I fully expect those two to be the strikers when the time comes. Haller, it just seems like his time's done. I don't know if, as you said, maybe it is still fitness. Like that's kind of what they talked about before, was he's just not going to be able to get back up to the same level or the levels we need him at. And that could be the thing. I think I did see they're still looking like, I haven't seen any like transfer connections or anything like that, but it's like if they can get him out, if there's an offer, it looks like they're going to take it. So it looks like he's just not in the plans, sadly. But yeah, I mean, Adam, if you want to touch on what your thoughts on Adeyemi and maybe as a striker, or like, do we see him shifting out wide once we get Girassi and Bayer more up to speed and up to fitness?
I mean, I should have known better because of the preseason matches, which I admit I didn't watch too much of. But when they showed the graphic up top, first I didn't believe the 3 at the back, but turns out that was true. And then my son's like, Adeyemi at the top and Malen up? I'm like, no, they'll swap that. Malen will definitely be on the top. Adeyemi is like, he can do wing back. We see him fly up that flank all the time. And then it just wasn't the case. And then like, I feel like every third Twitter comment I saw was swap the two, like try to get something going by switching them. And, you know, a lot of times they'll trade off roles during a match, but they didn't really seem to. Well, I guess, I don't know. I didn't see it as a direct swap, but I don't know. I was also a little concerned about like, in this system, like Sabitzer gets so few touches. I feel like we had a ton of possession and made more passes than, we made more passes, or we attempted more passes. It was almost the made more passes than any match last season. And I looked at that before this and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that, because I was trying to find some differences between our games last year and this one with having a new coach. And yeah, we had more passes attempted than any game last year. And I didn't realize that when I was watching it. And I think Sabitzer had like 35 touches, and that just seems like a waste of Sabitzer. So I think you guys have mentioned, you know, maybe not having Chan in there. I'm not as big a Chan hater as some people are. I thought he had some good moments in this match. But I do think maybe Chan is center back depth at this point, and the 8 with Gross and Sabitzer might be a way to go. Although I will tell you, Gross had a very sneaky match for me. I felt like he was being a little wasted by being tethered a little too close to the back 3. And like, I was like, how many touches does he even have? And of course he has like a shitload of touches. I had no idea he had that many touches. And then I was like, well, he wasn't progressing the ball, was he? And actually he had a ton of progressive passes. And I was like, seriously? And like a lot of key passes. And it was just like a sneaky good match. Right. And I feel like, oh, then when he's like really like showing off what he does. Like, how good is it going to be? And, looking back at the highlights, he obviously like perked up in the second half, and he had the assist, and he had some other good crosses and good chances. But I felt like in the first half, it's his first half in a match with the club too. So he's settling in and, probably staying a little too close to that back line. We just had a hard time going through the middle. And I think we see that in Sabitzer's numbers too.
I don't want to repeat too much because you took a lot of the words out of my mouth. Very well said, Adam. I do want to echo though too, that Chan had a better game. I mean, still not great, but I do think it was miles better than the Phoenix Lubeck game for the Pokal. I mean, he was one of the very, very few players that I at least took a mental note of in the first half of like being able to drive the ball forward and at times just pick up the ball in our own half and then take on two Frankfurt players and get to an attacking position and then dish the ball off. So that was much better than on his part. But yeah, I just wanted to echo that too about Sabitzer. I mean, I think he should be getting a little bit more touches on the ball, specifically in the central areas for build-up, right? Because we don't have too many great passers on the team that I have a lot of confidence in. So I think the fact that Gross and Sabitzer both can connect really well, I'd like to see more of that going forward. But we'll just have to see how the team molds in the next few weeks or months. And then Malen, some adjustments at halftime. Malen positioning a bit more centrally, like you mentioned. Gross kind of getting out wide more. I think even like on his like quote unquote like bad days, Gross can still have like a sneaky game like that and just make some moves and just not be necessarily the star of the show there. But there was some, smaller tweaks, and that helped us just get over the line more and start to play a little bit more confident and dominant football against Frankfurt in that second 45.
Yeah, I was going to, get in as the changes. Let's just talk about Gittens. Let's just talk about
I was leaving that for you,
man.
Jake.
And I do, what?
I was leaving that for you.
All right. Well, I was going to pass it back to you guys and let you talk about it. But I know there's a little like, well, should he have started? Look what he did. He came off the bench. But there's also like, there's some motivation, right? There's some motivation factor there for him to maybe be a little frustrated that he didn't get the start and then come in and just do what he did. Like that's kind of what you want. Like you want that extra motivation, that push. Also on transfer talks a little bit, sounds like maybe they put Malen out there just to put him in the shop window a little bit, according to one tweet I saw earlier. But I'm not mad because I think you don't always necessarily get that kind of performance or that output when someone starts. Like they just have this extra motivation, and he came in 59th minute and then ends up scoring, I think it was the 72nd to get our breakthrough. And hooey, what a beautiful, beautiful goal. He just leaves Christensen in the dust, puts him on toast, skates right past him, and then just the finish too. Like it's just beautiful. I love it.
I don't want to steal this from you, Adam, because I'll dish it right to you after this. I just want to say 2 weeks in a row where I completely look like an ass with these bad predictions of mine. Last week, I shut you down a handful of times, Jake, saying like, yeah, obviously Jamie Gittens is a great player. I just think he had more of a breakout season last year, and he might just ride that. And then first game in the Bundesliga, man of the match, completely changing the game. And I gotta take that L and own that real quick. So I'll pass it on to you, Adam.
Before, like in the last match too, against Phoenix Lubeck, people were like, "Oh my gosh, he's not ready. He's not ready because he can't even. He's trying to run past these fourth division guys and he can't do it." And like, no, you gotta let him. Just put him out there and let him do his thing.
The apps are on their way. Let him cook.
Love it. Oh, what to say about JFG? He came on, and both of his goals were right after incredibly scary moments, like moments after two scary moments. So that 93% chance was when he scored his first one, where it sails right over the bar, and then Kobel just gives it to Sula. Sula gives it to Gross. Gross pumps it up to JFG, and it's in the back of the net, like within the seconds. And it's like such an awesome strike. I don't even think Trapp did poorly with it. It was just impossible to handle. Like, I don't know. It was just a beautiful goal. I don't know what else to say beyond that. And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of the game for the second goal, but oh gosh, I feel like that one needs like Titanic music and like setting up the scene and everything. That would
We've run that before, the Titanic music.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, it's 90 plus 3. And I thought Schlotterbeck had it was kind of a weird game because my son was like, I don't think he's having a good game. But like, then I was like, I don't know, but he's doing a lot of things that are good. It seems like he's good. And then you look at the stats and they were like awesome for Schlotterbeck.
Especially out of position too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then, like, for this play, I don't know, just like some sort of like brain fart, and he just like crumpled, and like the ball just got picked up, and immediately a nice clean pass to, I forget who it was, an open player, but like Vincent Baini spotted it and was hoofing it back. And this was Hummels esque. I'm sorry, but this was Hummels esque. And he just comes in and this hero tackle that he just flies the back heel to stop the ball. The player gets cleaned out. Half of the Frankfurt players are crying penalty. But the way he threw the ankle in there, or the heel in there, it also scooped up the ball. So he pops up and turns around. He wiggles past one guy, finds JBG, who does the turn of all turns. I forget what kind of noise I made when I screamed over that one. I'm like, ah! And like the turn that he did, it was just ridiculous. And he has the entire pitch ahead of him. And then, of course, Bayer is running with him. And I think JFG wanted to do anything he could to pass it to Bayer. They're looking at each other. And finally he's like, dude, if you're not going to get more open, I just have to slot this one away. And oh my God. And then that's when the Titanic music hits its crescendo. It's just unbelievable goal. The whole sequence, not just the goal, like everything about it. I'm talking more Benson Baini here than even Gittens. Like that's the type of play that like reinvigorates your season. Like if he's going to build off that, I forget if it was Brian on your show who talked about like, Benson Baini takes a lot of heat, but his season was kind of like in the league, it was rough, but in the Champions League, he actually had some good matches. It was a little bit of a weird thing. Like the stats are so different between the two competitions. And like, I'm not as low on him as some others are. I know I said that about Chan too. If you want someone I'm low on, it's Mecha. So just it's Mecha. Just get out of my club. But anyway, I think this is the type of thing that could really set him up well for this season, get that confidence going, get others' confidence in him as well. That said, 1 centimeter off and, it's a penalty and it's 1-1, but it wasn't.
Yeah, in that moment, I forgave everything about Benza Baini. I took back everything I've ever said in the past. And like I was a little like, when we signed him last year, like I was trying to be hopeful, and I was decently excited, like because I remember there in the season before there was a stat where we were playing Gladbach, and he had 5 goals at this point in the season, which was more than anyone on the Dortmund's team. And I thought, well, shit, we're signing this left back who has more goals than our strikers or anyone else. Cool, sounds great to me. And then as you mentioned, like the season, like a bit inconsistent, and then he gets injured, falls out, and then we get Maatsen, and I just freaking love Maatsen so much. So all of that, put it together, I kind of wrote Benza Baini off, and that's why this season, we wanted Maatsen so bad. I wanted Rota to be the backup. I wanted Benza Baini out. I get this was one tackle in one moment, and who knows what's going to happen, but it did kind of bring me back to that previous hopefulness of Benza Baini. So, and I also just put a lot in, I don't know, with Terzic, I didn't trust a lot that was happening with anybody. We see some other people who fell off too. So maybe like new season, new coach, give him a chance. If Shaheen's giving him those chances, then we'll see what happens. And I mean, especially if we get to the end of the transfer window and we don't have another left back with it, don't bring anyone else in, then it looks like that's kind of the option. Maybe it says something that we're playing Schlotterbeck in that position too. I don't know. There's still a lot of question marks, but I freaking love that tackle, and it was beautiful, and it set up a fantastic goal. And that was Carver. Sorry, I cut you off a little bit, but that's what
No, you're good. I mean, just everything. But I just want to emphasize that everything before and after the tackle too was just perfect. I mean, the fact that he was able to get. I mean, he was pretty not far up the field, but he was much higher than pretty much almost everyone else on the team, and tracked all the way back. I mean, you could just see the sprint he had, like Adam mentioned already. I mean, immediately got back up and picked out a pass. I mean, that is also extremely difficult to do. I mean, Jamie JFG has a lot of similar qualities to Sancho, and that's why I think a lot of people do like him. But something that he has on Sancho and has always had on Sancho is just his explosiveness and his lightning pace. So not only does he have this gorgeous turn in him, and he's got this, we've been waiting for this moment all game of we can finally be on that counter attack again and just exploit this space. I mean, he just turns and he's just gone. There's no one on that field that can catch up to him. And he also just, he had the intelligence too to wait and see if a defender is going to commit to either one of them and then make a play. And he was able to finish off. I mean, again, just from both of those players, from start to finish, it was a perfect play. The first goal from JFG2 was incredible, dude. Just the way that he is not only able to just have these like lightning quick feet to have these step overs or whatever he does whenever he has the ball at his feet, but just the drop of his shoulders too is so deceptive, and it's so fun to watch, man. I mean, it's so hard to defend. And just the fact that he can also step out of that real quick and just be gone like that in a second, in a flash of a second. It's exciting. And I retract my statement about him having a breakout season this week. I officially retract that statement.
Yeah, we only had six successful take-ons in the entire match, and 2 of them were JBG right before the goals. It was 2 of them were actually Chan. He was 2 for 2 on the take-ons. So I'll put a little bit there for Chan. I'm not in love with him, but I think he takes a lot of crap. Much of it deserved, but some of it maybe not so much. But yeah, I think that it was awesome. I can't say enough about JFG. Sorry.
Yeah, in a game where I think this new style, like we want to have a little more possession, right? We want to play a prettier style of football, look a little better doing it. I think in a game where one it's early, so like I think that'll come. I think once we get more grooved in the system, things will start to get better. Hopefully we can break down teams better than we tried against Eintracht Frankfurt, who are able to stop us. I'm still really encouraged by we kept a clean sheet, right? We got the job done. And then to be able to score on those we got our goals from counters. We didn't get them or in these transition moments, like to be able to capitalize when the game's not really going your way necessarily, or when you're not able to break a team down. What you need to do is then be able to still have the kind of that, mental endurance isn't probably the right word, but the mental toughness or the know-how to be this is our moment to capitalize, and then to just do it. And I mean, part of that is Gittens coming on and just doing what he does, but being in those positions and then be able to finish and capitalize. But really encouraged that it looks like we can beat teams a few different ways. If plan A isn't really there, we're still able to capitalize on transition and beat those people there, or beat other teams in that way too.
I have 2 more stats that are higher than any match last season. One of them surprised me a little bit was touches in the attacking third. We had more this match than any match last season, which surprised me a little bit. And any guess which player had the most?
Hold on, give me 3
this
seconds.
Is out of all players on the pitch, the most touches in the attacking third.
Nicholas Sula. Just throwing out a wild card.
I'm going to go Rierson.
Rierson is actually third. It's Pascal Gross. And that surprised me as well. And I'm thinking they must have all been in the second half.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah,
it had to have been. I wish I had those by half. And one more thing that really stood out, we were 17 out of 20 in aerial duels, 85%. You have to go back to May 2022 to get a higher percentage than that. And that was only 8 out of 9 against Fürth. So 17 out of 20 was pretty impressive. I think Schlotterbeck alone was 6 out of 6.
Yeah, that is impressive. Last thing for me I wanted to touch on for this game is just very surprised at this appearance for Giovanni Reyna. I thought the door was closing for him, and looks like Shaheen, and also I don't have the quote in front of me, but Kale had a quote on Reyna as well. And maybe under this new system, a bit more dominant football, more possession based. Reyna absolutely has the quality and absolutely definitely has the ball retention. That's arguably his best quality to be back in this side, maybe in different roles. I mean, it could be a number of different things watching this game, right? I mean, he could be in that front line. I think he could also at times help in, a little bit deeper in build up if we need to. He's done that for the U.S., but maybe he's got more of a future here. Who's to say? But either way, I was just very surprised to see him come on and actually look not too bad either, considering the last 8 months of his career has been down the drain.
I'll agree. I think for a 10-minute cameo, it was, very strong. He, made a tackle, had a couple progressive passes, progressive carry. He was involved. He looked like he was having fun out there.
Yeah. I tweeted about the game after.
I don't know if I want to read too much into it, but it was more promising than I expected.
Yeah, I have the quote pulled up. And we talked about it last week. I was really worried as far as someone who just wants to see Gio Reyna like succeed, right? I understand if people want him out of the club, but being the biased USMNT fan and also a Dortmund fan, I want him to succeed at Dortmund. Completely understand if that's not going to happen, but and not to see any minutes in the Pokal concern me a little more in that way. Part of the quote, at least from Kel, is he has to accept his role and free himself from it. It was clear when we had talks in the summer that Gio wanted to take on this role, that there will be enough games where we need him. We know that he has incredible skills.
Thank you.
And
That's
there's also like a
what I was thinking of. Yeah.
nice photo of him and Shaheen after this match too. So as you said, like looks like he's having fun, hopefully enjoying life under the new regime. And yeah, if that means we can get the best out of Gio Reyna, he can perform for our club. As I've said, I will happily keep him here, especially over some other people who are still in the club.
Enough BS. Let's get to the women's team. Been waiting for this.
Nice.
Do you want to start us off, Adam?
Yeah. Does it make sense to just kind of like recap a little bit, like what got us to this point? Yeah, like it's the 4th season now of the team. It's hard to imagine that it's already been 4 seasons here. The very first team in 21-22 that was in the 7th tier, they went 18-0-0, had 143 goals and 3 allowed. They won their cup and they got promotion. The next year in the Bezirksliga, such a great name, tier 6, longer schedule. They went 24-0-0, 143 goals scored again. This time it was 5 conceded. They won the Kreispokal as well. There was a higher level cup that they were in as well, that they lost in the quarterfinal. And it was one that they were winning 2-0 in that match too. It was a heartbreaking. That was the first loss of any kind that they had suffered. And it was against like a team like 3 divisions higher or something like that. Last season, they were in the Landesliga, the 5th tier. They went 23-1-0. They had 1 draw in there. The first match in a league match that they did not win, but still 124 goals, 6 allowed the entire season. They won the Kreispokal again, the Verbandspokal, which is the other one. This time they lost in the semifinal, so they got closer on that one. That brings us to this year where they're now in tier 4. So kind of quickly they've gone up from tier 7 to tier 4. And that's like a big change in level. And there's been a lot of player turnover too, which is one of those things that is both exciting, but also for someone that gets like attached to the team, it can get a little tricky because you see players that you know and love that are like moving on. There's 10 new signings this year. And then additionally, 4 players from last year's first team stayed in the Landesliga with the second team. So there's a first team, a second team, and a U17. So 4 players, Leah Herper, Virginia Glanzer, Leah Auffenberg, and Anna Schoenberg all went to the second team. Several players departed outright. Some of them, I would say, are club legends because of the part they played in establishing this club. And Katrin Lau, I will always remember like the second promotion because I was sending her a message on Instagram congratulating them on the promotion, and she literally just video called me in from the freaking celebration and was passing around the phone, and I was always like, this is crazy. She's awesome. Vanessa Kuhl, who you might remember, who had like 25 goals and 22 assists in the first year. She's just an incredible player as well. Works for the club in another capacity too. So she's still a lot of them are all very much still a part of the club. This is the club of their hearts. So Lisa Clemen, our first captain, has moved on. Carolyn Call, who is a striker. I'll touch more on her in a second. Hannah Hentrich. And so all of those players were part of the very first team. And Meryl Grulich, she was only here for a single season, and she's moved on as well. Also this month, Danelle Tan, who was one of our new players last year, departed, but it was not really Dortmund's choice. She actually got a professional offer from Australia. She's from Singapore, so she is going to the A-League this year, which is a huge deal for her. So she was very grateful for Dortmund for giving her the chance. Like, she's Singapore's youngest goal scorer at the senior level. She scored when she was 14. Just a really great talent. She had like 16 goals for the team last year or something. One thing that I found that was interesting is that there's another amateur club in the Dortmund area that now has 5 former Dortmund players playing for the team. If you'll remember Hannah Guzman, who was like our 17, 18-year-old striker who like led the team in scoring the very first year. She's there. She's really good friends with Carolyn Call. So Carolyn just joined as well. And it's awesome. Those two are banging in the goals all the time. Allegra Jarris, who is our right back the first and second year, I think, is there now as well. And 2 previous members of the second team, Michelle Holter and Jana Waschinski, are both there as well. So it's like now I have a second lower level Dortmund team to follow because there's so many players that we know from previous Dortmund teams. So that leaves 5 players left from that initial team. 2 of them are goalkeepers. Lena Komel was the third keeper. She's now the second keeper. Sandra Schroer, who's like 41 or 42 now. She was originally the number 1. She's like the number 3 now, although I think she might have played in the match this weekend. Marina Young, center back. She's incredible. Not surprised that she's stayed with the team this long. Anna Halsensteiner, who was going by Anna Zobel the first year, and maybe the second year too. She's one that scored a ton. She plays every position. I remember saying this is a player that might go all the way up with them. And so far she has. And then Kimberly Becker, who surprised me a little bit that she's been with the team this long. She played a little bit more of a bit part the first year. Not a bit part. I mean, she was playing about half the time, but she's really stepped up each year and is still with the team as well. So 5 players still from that very first season. Now to put a damper on things a little bit, the first match, well, I guess the first cup match of the season is not the damper. They won 11-0 in the first match. Mariana Naseva had a hat trick. She joined the first club last year. I think she joined initially on the second team. She's actually on the North Macedonian national team. And it was like ridiculous that she was on the second team because she's so good. She scores a lot of goals, gets a lot of assists. So it's nice to see that she's banging them in for the first team now too. But then our first match in the 4th tier, they went up against the last year's runner-up. What's the team's name? Iserlohn. Yeah, there we go.
You probably got that one.
They went up 1-0 thanks to Henna Geldschlager, and it was like the 65th minute or something. They're still up 1-0, but then like 3 in a row. It reminds me of that cup game I told you about where they were winning and then like allowed 3 within like a 6-minute span. Same kind of thing here. Just crosses after cross, and they just allowed 3 goals in a row and ended up losing 3-1. And it was the first competitive loss in the league in Dortmund women's team history. And I was like, really, the timing? I'm coming crazy. Back on. Yeah, season 4. So yeah, up until that point, it was, what is 8? I'm going to do math live here. 18, 23, and 24. 65 wins and a draw before that happened. But, next week they have a home match against the 6th placed team last year. Herforder SV Borussia Friedenthal. They have a lot of words in their name. So last weekend's was not broadcast. I'm curious if this one will be broadcast. Probably will be if it's at home. That's another thing. It's still tough to watch some of the games, but when they're at home, you can usually catch them.
I did have a question, but one thing I wanted to touch on for this year's league that I thought was really interesting, and also another motivational factor is this. If I'm not wrong, the Smurfs are in this division.
Yes.
FC Schalke's women's team is going to be in this division, and we play them, I think, on like October 27th. So I got that down on my calendar.
Oh.
That'll be a very fun game to watch. Another derby with just the women's team.
Yeah, I wonder if Schalke broadcast their matches. I'll have to look into that and get back to y'all. That'll be really interesting.
Yeah. And the fact that they lost 3-1, 3 goals conceded, That was just as much as their first entire season combined, which is pretty crazy. And it looks like only one team gets promoted out of this division. I forget if the other divisions like that below this are like that. Is it the same thing with only one team going up?
I think it might have been. In fact, their first year wasn't necessarily an automatic promotion. They actually had to play a promotion playoff, and they won that one, so they got to go up.
That is going to be... I'm so excited to watch this season even more, because the fact that we could potentially be promoted and Schalke won't be is just that much more of a fun little competitive factor. Adam, do you think we will be able to pull it off again for a fourth year in a row? I say we as a man. I'll say they.
The first match definitely puts some doubt. We'll learn a lot in how they react to it. Yeah. I mean, the next team is also a very good club that they're playing against. So if they come out with a statement win, I think we can get back to our expectations of, yeah, they'll do this. You know, at some point, the expectation probably isn't going to be you're going to blow away the league every time. And honestly, that might make following a little bit more interesting, because there's something to actually worry about. There hasn't been up to this point, but yeah, I think this may be a sign that it's, you know, fifth to fourth tier might be a bigger jump than they've had yet up to this point. Yeah,
at some point the scales have to balance a little bit, right? But as you were talking about that too in that first match, just the excitement level, like you said, that's it. It's obviously exciting that they won. We've been saying it for the last 3 years now. It's like, hey, whenever the Dortmund men's team has got you down or got you feeling like crap because they suck sometimes, just go watch the Dortmund women's team, because they're going to win. It's going to be great. But it is exciting that things are a little more competitive now. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always found exciting about when they were in the cup competitions too, because there's a lot more on the line. You're playing teams from higher divisions and tiers. And so, no, it is really exciting, and I'm excited to pay even more attention to, the upcoming season and see how things pan out. Especially, you throw in the Schalke factor. Like, what more do you need to just get into the the Dortmund women's team already if you're not already?
Yeah, and there was almost another storyline with the coach Thomas Salewski, and several of the players came from Berghofen, and they were going to join the league that Berghofen was in. Except they got relegated, so they actually swapped spots. So it would have been fun to have a lot of them go up against their old team, but not to be this time.
Good stuff, Adam. I needed that again. Thank you so much. That was coming from the expert himself. I tried to touch on the women's team a handful of times, and I loved it every time. Don't get me wrong; it was very fun. But
you did well. Don't worry.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
but he's not
no match still though for Adam, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, I know the listeners really appreciate all the information too. This is a very exciting season, and it's. I know you mentioned a handful of times already, but 4 years already, or 4 seasons, I should say, already is really mind-boggling. It only feels like maybe 2 years ago that we had you on for the first time to talk about this brand new women's team, and talked about just what it's going to even remotely look like. And here we are climbing up the table every year. It's quite the journey to follow.
Yeah, I mean, and I've mentioned I haven't been updating my site as much just because time constraints. But at the same time, over the years, the club's coverage of the women's team has kept increasing. So they're definitely much easier to follow through the club's channels now as well, too. So I highly recommend everybody do it.
Yeah, definitely.
They picked up the torch. They're like, Adam. Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you for your help in the beginning.
I will forever have that jersey behind me there. That's the first team signed that jersey. So
it's so sick.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, we can do this quick. I know we're kind of getting on time a little bit, but Werder Bremen this weekend, Dortmund men's team. Well, and so quick back to the women. I guess you said they have a match this weekend. Did you? You might have mentioned who they're playing.
It was the one that had a lot of words.
Four words in
that.
Herforder, SV.
Don't say it again.
Borussia,
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked.
Friedenstahl. There you go.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
And keep an eye out too. If that is streamed, Adam, will you be putting out info?
I think that one is going to be streamed. So yeah, I'll get a link for it. Stage.tv, STAIGE.tv is where they broadcast them. And you can get on there and follow Dortmund, and it'll have everything there for you, basically. So you'll know which matches will be broadcast.
Perfect. But yeah, Werder Bremen this weekend. Saturday. Is it Saturday morning? I don't even have the tape pulled up.
That's a
Saturday.
good question.
9:30. Well, I was looking at the matchup, but I realized it didn't have the date. I was like, oh no, it just says 5 days away. But Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Werder Bremen. I had that match on over the weekend. They played FC Augsburg. Augsburg. That's what happens when I try to say anything. I just screw it all up. They played Augsburg, and it was a really interesting match, kind of back and forth. Ended up tying 2-2. But Carver, your thoughts on the upcoming match this weekend?
Yeah, we know what we're going to get from Ole Werner at this point with just the wide play. Weiser is going to be someone that we're going to have to look out for. He's one of their main playmakers out wide on the right-hand side. They did sign, how do you pronounce his name? Kiki Top from Schalke. Taller, big man. I think he started also at the weekend against Augsburg. Fact check me on that, though, if I'm wrong, any listener. Have not lost to Bremen since that tragic day that I was there in 2022. So I hope we just keep that form up and not have another embarrassing result. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to see how we can tweak a bit more and try to just build and improve on what we saw in that second half at the weekend. Sorry for the sirens going by. But and of course oh yeah. Sorry, I looked at the wrong date. I was like, are we at home again? We just had a home match. I was looking at the reverse fixture. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means. There are no easy games in the Bundesliga, but I think I'm feeling either a 2-1 or a 3-1 for us.
As I could go. Yeah, I did not watch the match. All I know is that it seems like their most dangerous attackers are former Dortmund players with Duction and
Yeah.
Jimia. I'm so bad at it. I'm sorry. I apologize. Being away though, like I'm not gonna go and predict a blowout. I'm gonna go with your good old classic 2-1, hoping that it's better than that. But I will definitely take running away with any type of win on the road. And I don't want to talk about that match again, but the last time we played them in August, what happened? No, sorry.
That's so true. It was also the second match of the season too.
Right. Do you think we might hear about it in the broadcast?
Yeah, if we have a 2-0 lead, start panicking.
Luckily, it's like we're Dortmund fans. It's like, you can't hurt me. We've had worse scenarios since then. That was nothing compared to the last day of, oh my God. That was the same season, wasn't it? Oh, God. How do we do this?
My prediction, I'm going to say 1-0 because I feel a clean sheet. I don't want to say we're going to get 2 goals because I'm too scared to what happens if we get to that point. But yeah, I don't know. I'm always hopeful because I'm a Dortmund fan, right? And I feel like we see a little more figured out. I hope we can put things together a little more. And I would be curious if we see like the lineup change, like maybe we see Bayer start this match possibly. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Adeyemi back up top again and just keep rolling with what we've doing. But do you guys, is there any lineup expectations you guys have or big changes you think we might see in the lineup this time around?
I was just going to say, I think Bayer's a good shout. I mean, I know he didn't get many touches. I don't know. I have the stat in front of me. I don't think he touched the ball much at all in the Frankfurt game, but he did not put a foot wrong outside of that. I mean, he made some really good runs. He was very physical in times in the box as well, got himself into some decent positions. I think this could be an opportunity for him. Outside of that, I mean, as we mentioned already a handful of times, if we're going to stick to this system going forward until fixtures get a bit more congested, I would like to see Adeyemi in that wingback role. Other than that, not much else. Not too many different feelings compared to Frankfurt, at least.
Yeah, the change that I see, you both already mentioned it. I think there's a decent chance that Bayer starts just because I think that he was only here for like a week before the first match, and we got him right into the cup game. We got him into this one, and I think that a start could be around the corner. It's tough because you're like trying to go not by what you think should happen, but by what you think will happen. I don't have a ton of history for Shaheen to go by, so I don't know if JFG is going to get the start this time. He might have, shown that he should get it, but I think there's still something to having that dangerous weapon off the bench.
I agree.
Especially, a match that could be very close because it's going to be an away match. So I would love to let him cook after the 60th minute again.
just some interesting notes. And I know we've talked a lot about transfers, so we don't have to hit on it that much, but I think this kind of plays into the match this weekend, right? Because the transfer window ends on Friday, I believe. And again, Moukoko is probably gone. He's probably already in France right now, chilling while you're listening to this episode. So Moukoko to Nice, probably done. The other interesting ones is Malen. Like, I know there's been, I haven't seen really anything concrete. I did see a tweet about him going to Manchester United, but I saw that a long time ago too. And I don't know how realistic this one is. Maybe we'll hear more news again by the time this episode's out. But that definitely opens things up, right? If Malen is out the door, then that leaves that room open for JFG or Adeyemi out wide. So who knows? That could change some things. And the other transfer thing, we haven't seen him really yet. So if he goes, then it might not be that big of a deal. But Salioshi to Wolfsburg looks like that might be happening as well.
Yeah, I can't say at this point, like, if Salioshi did leave, if it would make much of a blip on the radar, because I think he's so frozen out at this point. You know, not because of anything that he did, but just because there's players of other higher quality. As for the others, I think with Malen, I like Malen, but if we're gonna get Premier League money for him, I say just go ahead and do it, because this is a transition year. A lot of younger players are going to be getting minutes. I think play Duranville while he's actually healthy. Get JFG the minutes that he deserves. I'm okay with it at this point. First, also I'm not convinced that he's like been dying to be here like at all the whole time he's been here. I get a little bit more of that from Adeyemi, go figure, but I don't know. Maybe I see a little bit more of an upside with Adeyemi too. Although still a lot of frustrating moments. But if Malen wants to go, I would wish him well. It's not like I'm dying to see him go, but I'm also not holding onto his shirt, stopping him.
Right. Just depends what kind of money we get for him, which, as you mentioned, I think absolutely, if we are even to consider it, it should be for a very hefty fee. I mean, the man has definitely earned in the past like 8 months or so that higher market value. And, if we are able to do that, then I think there's still some time to reinvest it in, another 6, another player in the back line. There still seems to be some floating dreams about another Sancho loan. I have no idea how valid those reports have been.
Oh my God, don't tease me.
I know, I'm not trying to. But
Swap deal.
If that money does come in, it absolutely needs to be reinvested before this window closes, because there still needs to be, if, of course, he is offloaded, another player in this team.
I'm just really excited to see all the news break overnight while I'm sleeping, and then listen back to the episode and be like, cool.
Got it.
And
that's our specialty here on the show.
So who knows what's going to happen by the time you're actually listening to this. But yeah, I mean, you guys got anything else before we wrap? No?
Wait, we didn't mention Marco. Goal and assist in his debut for the Galaxy. Like, dude, nothing but amazing things for Marco Reus for the rest of his life, please. That's
just
all
not this. Just not this weekend.
He's going to be in St. Louis this weekend, yeah.
Although you were concerned that he wasn't going to be playing yet, and apparently he's playing, and he's certainly playing.
Right
yeah,
before
that's
you hopped
just because I didn't want to see him come to St. Louis and do anything that I wouldn't like, being a person who lives in St. Louis. So
do I ask you now if Berkey has any thoughts on him visiting, or do I ask you that after we're done recording?
It's been a really good episode, guys. Everyone's still invited to come to St. Louis this weekend and watch Marco Reus and Roman Berkey. Let us know if you're going to be here. We would love that. No, we appreciate everyone hanging out, listening. Adam, thank you so much for hanging with us. Make sure you follow Adam on all the things.
Follow Adam.
We've got everything linked. As we always do, we've never taken him out of the description of our episodes. So if you've ever randomly been like, who's this Adam they keep telling me to follow? This is Adam. Now you know. Go follow him, please.
It's because I bought stock on the ground floor. Yeah.
We'll see you guys later. I just